Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to uncover a powerful turning point. After weeks of searching, Alex finally finds Tuna and Henry in an abandoned house, drops to his knees and begs, "I swear I'm not leaving again." What did Tuna and Henry endure while he was gone, and can their family heal after that painful separation? If you enjoy emotional long-form stories like this, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next videos. The days after the breakup turned into a brutal loop for Alex. Wake up, sit in silence, replay everything, punish himself, repeat. He barely moved. In a room kept dark on purpose, he sat like a man waiting for a sentence to be carried out. The air felt heavy, the kind of quiet that becomes scary because it gives your mind too much space. Every time he closed his eyes, the same scene came back. Tuna sitting on that wooden step under the blood-red sunset. Henry asleep in her arms, the way her tears fell onto his hair while she tried to stay quiet so she wouldn't wake him. Alex saw it like a film he couldn't turn off, and each replay cut deeper than the last. Regret didn't come in waves anymore. It lived inside him. It clung to him and gnawed at him non-stop. The worst part was the truth he couldn't escape. He had chosen the safe option. He had convinced himself he was protecting everyone, but deep down he knew what it really was. He let go because he was scared. And in doing that, he left the woman he loved and an innocent child to face the storm alone. At first, he tried to tell himself he did it for his mother, but after a few days, even that excuse collapsed. He didn't care about work anymore. He didn't care about business deals or reputation or anything his mother threatened him with. None of it mattered because the moment he released Tuna's hand, his entire life lost its center. Alex finally admitted something he had never dared to say out loud before. Success meant nothing without them. Wealth felt empty. Big houses felt cold. Even the city felt pointless when he had no one to come home to. And that was when he snapped out of the numbness and turned into someone else. He started searching like a man who didn't deserve forgiveness but couldn't survive without trying to earn it. He went back to the old farm first, hoping he might find her there. But when he arrived, the place looked abandoned. The door was locked. Weeds had grown wild along the path. It felt like time had moved forward without permission, like the farm itself had decided to erase the memory of them. Alex stood there for a long time, staring at the step where she had sat that night, and the emptiness hit him so hard his chest tightened. He knocked. He called out her name. Nothing. From there, he went everywhere. Streets they had walked, small cafes they had visited, corners of the city where they once stopped to breathe and pretend life was normal. He asked people who might know something, old neighbors, market vendors, anyone. But every time he said Tuna, he got the same answer. Confused faces, hesitant silence, or a quick shake of the head. It was like she had dissolved into thin air. And as the days passed, a new fear took root in him, a fear so tight it made it hard to breathe. What if he had truly lost them forever? What if that night wasn't just a breakup, but the last time he would ever see his family? One evening, under a cold drizzle with crowds rushing past like he didn't exist, Alex stood on the sidewalk and felt like a ghost. Cars splashed through puddles. People walked around him. The city kept moving, indifferent, and he realized something terrifying. If this search kept going nowhere, the emptiness inside him might swallow him whole. Meanwhile, far from the places Alex was searching, Tuna was living a completely different reality. In a noisy, dusty corner of a poor market, she sat on a small tarp laid over the ground. She wasn't there for attention. She was there because she had no choice. Her eyes looked tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix, but there was still something strong in them. Determination. Survival. Henry slept against her shoulder, his little body pressed close even as the market roared around them. Vendors shouted prices, fish and meat scents mixed in the air, people bargained loudly, feet moved past her non-stop. And still, Tuna sat there selling small trinkets, cheap little items that barely earned anything, collecting coins one by one because every bit mattered. The hands Alex used to hold like something precious were now rough, cracked, and worn from sun, wind, and constant work. Her face looked thinner, but when she looked at Henry, her expression softened immediately. That part of her hadn't changed. That protective tenderness was still there, as steady as breathing. In the middle of all that chaos, Tuna was like a wildflower trying to grow on a road people kept stepping on, still alive, still standing, because she had to be, not for herself, for the tiny life leaning against her chest. She didn't dream about Alex coming back anymore. Not because she didn't care, but because hoping hurt too much. Hope made you wait. Hope made you weak. So she focused on what was right in front of her. Survive the day, buy milk, keep Henry warm, keep moving. One night, Alex sat slumped by the roadside, exhausted from another day of searching and failing. His head was down. His mind felt empty. That's when someone stopped nearby, an old acquaintance from his time around the farm. At first, the person hesitated, like they weren't sure if they should say anything. Then they spoke carefully. They said they had seen a woman who looked like Tuna. She was carrying a small child, and she had been appearing often near the abandoned houses at the edge of the forest. Alex's body reacted like he'd been shocked awake. His heart slammed against his ribs, his spine went cold, then hot. He stood up so fast it almost made him dizzy. "Where?" he demanded, voice shaking. The person tried to explain, but Alex didn't let them finish. He grabbed their shoulders, eyes wide, begging for the exact location. The second he got it, he ran. He jumped onto his motorcycle, hands trembling as he started the engine. The roar filled the night, and for the first time in days, something lit inside him. Hope. Fragile as a thread, but bright enough to pull him forward. He drove like the darkness was chasing him. Like if he slowed down, the night would hide them again. Back at the market, Tuna packed up as the crowd thinned. Her body ached in that quiet way it does when you've been pretending you're strong all day. She carried Henry and walked toward her shelter, an abandoned house with peeling walls and a rusted tin roof. It wasn't a home, not really. It was a place to hide from the cold. Wind whistled through windows with no glass, cutting straight into the room. Tuna lit a small candle, and the flame flickered as if even it was struggling. The light threw long, shaky shadows on the stained walls. Two silhouettes, mother and child, clinging to each other. She laid Henry down on an old mattress and pulled a thin, frayed blanket over him. Then she sat beside him in silence, staring into the emptiness of the house. Loneliness pressed down on her so hard it felt like it had weight. She wanted to cry, but she was too tired to even do that properly. Instead, in the darkness, she began to softly sing a lullaby. Her voice trembled, mixing with the wind that screamed through the cracks in the walls. This was home now, a place with no protection, no warmth, no love. Just two abandoned souls keeping each other alive with nothing but breath and stubborn will. Then, suddenly, the sound of a motorcycle. It cut off in the distance, and the silence after it felt sharp. A second later, hurried footsteps hit the gravel outside. Tuna froze. Her candle shook in her hand. The footsteps came closer, fast, urgent. Then a figure appeared at the entrance. Alex. He stood there, breathing hard, eyes locked on the flickering light inside. He stepped into the abandoned house, and what he saw almost destroyed him. Tuna huddled thin in the corner. Henry sleeping on a grimy mattress, a candle as the only warmth. The raw truth of what they had lived through because he let go was right in front of him. Tuna looked up, stunned. The candle nearly slipped from her fingers. Time seemed to stop. Alex couldn't speak. He just stared at her, and tears started pouring down his face without warning, without control. His entire body shook like he'd been holding himself together with nothing but force. And now it was gone. He rushed forward, dropped to his knees and wrapped his arms around both Tuna and Henry, pulling them into him like he was terrified they might disappear again. He cried out loud, apologies spilling out between broken breaths. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Tuna didn't move at first. She looked like she didn't know if this was real. Then the pain of the past months, every silent night, every hungry day, every moment she forced herself not to hope, burst open all at once. She collapsed against his shoulder and sobbed like she had been holding it in forever. Henry stirred, waking up to the sound. His eyes opened, and when he saw them together, he reached out a tiny hand and touched Alex's face, as if recognizing something familiar, something safe. Alex kissed Henry's forehead, then Tuna's again and again, shaking as he promised with everything in him that he would never let them suffer like this again. And under that small, shimmering candlelight, the abandoned house didn't feel as cold as it did before, because love had finally returned. Alex stayed on his knees, holding them like his life depended on it, because in that moment, it did. His arms were wrapped around Tuna and Henry so tightly it was almost desperate, like if he loosened his grip even a little, the universe would take them away again. His shoulders shook with every breath, and his voice came out cracked and raw. "I was wrong," he whispered again and again. "I was so wrong." Tuna's crying didn't stop. It wasn't the quiet kind. It was the kind that came from months of swallowing pain until there was no space left inside her. She pressed her face into his shoulder, gripping his shirt like she was afraid the floor would vanish beneath her if she let go. The candlelight danced across their faces, and for a few seconds, all they were was a family broken open by grief and stitched together by the fact that they were finally in the same room again. Henry blinked sleepily, confused by the sound of crying and the sudden warmth around him. Then he reached out again, his tiny fingers pressing against Alex's cheek. That small touch hit Alex harder than any punch ever could. He froze, then sobbed even louder, turning his face slightly so Henry's hand stayed there. It was like his son was confirming something Alex feared he'd lost. "You're still his father. You still belong here." Alex kissed Henry's fingers, then kissed the baby's forehead gently. "Daddy's here," he whispered, voice shaking. "Daddy's here now." Tuna finally pulled back enough to look at him. Her eyes were red and swollen, her face thin from exhaustion, but the pain in her expression was sharp and clear. She didn't ask how he found her. She didn't ask why now. She looked at him as if she was trying to decide whether this was real or just another cruel moment that would disappear the second she trusted it. Alex understood that look. He deserved it. He lifted his hands slowly, like he was approaching something fragile. "Tuna, please," he said, breath trembling. "I'm not leaving again. I swear to you, I'm not." Tuna's lips parted, but her voice didn't come right away. When she finally spoke, it was small and broken. "Do you know what it was like?" she whispered. "After you left." Alex's throat tightened. He nodded, even though he didn't fully know. He only knew enough to hate himself. Tuna glanced down at Henry, then back up at Alex. "He cried at night," she said. "Not every night, but some nights. He cried until his face turned red, and I had nothing. No milk, no money. I sat there holding him, telling him it would be okay, while I didn't even believe it myself." Her voice shook harder, and I kept thinking, maybe this is my punishment. Maybe I really am what your mother said. Alex's eyes widened in pain. "No," he said immediately, firm even through tears. "Don't say that. Don't ever say that. You are not bad luck. You're the reason I was still standing." Tuna laughed once, but it wasn't happiness. It was disbelief mixed with hurt. "Then why did you let me go?" The question hung in the air like smoke. The candle crackled softly. Outside, the wind pushed through the broken windows, but inside, everything felt still. Alex lowered his head, shame flooding his face. "Because I was scared," he admitted. "I thought I could fix it later. I thought if I left you for a while, I could calm my mother down, handle everything, then come back and protect you properly." His voice broke. "But I didn't realize leaving was the worst thing I could do." Tuna's eyes filled again. She turned her face away, wiping tears with the back of her hand. "I told myself I wouldn't wait," she said quietly. "I told myself I wouldn't hope, because hoping hurts. Hope makes you weak." She swallowed. "But every time I heard a motorcycle far away, my heart still jumped." Alex reached for her hand slowly. This time, he didn't grab it. He just placed his palm near hers, asking without words. Tuna hesitated, then let her fingers slide into his. The moment they touched, Alex's eyes closed like he'd been holding his breath for months and could finally breathe again. "I searched everywhere," Alex said, voice low. "I went back to the farm. It was empty. I asked people. I walked streets until my legs couldn't stand. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. Because every second I wasn't looking for you felt like I was choosing to lose you." Tuna stared at him, still cautious. "And your mother?" she asked softly. Alex's face tightened. He looked away for a moment, then back at her. "My mother can be angry," he said carefully. "She can say cruel things, but she can't control my life anymore." His voice steadied. "I won't let fear run me. I won't let threats decide who I love." Tuna's breath caught. "So you came back, even if she—" "Yes," Alex cut in firm. "Even if she hates me for it. Even if she screams. Even if she tries to cut me off." He swallowed hard. "I would rather lose everything than lose you and Henry." Tuna shook her head slightly, overwhelmed. "You say that now," she whispered. "But what if she threatens again? What if she—" Alex leaned closer, eyes fierce with sincerity. "Then I'll face it," he said. "The right way, not by running, not by leaving you to suffer." His voice cracked again. "I can't undo what I did, but I can swear this. I will never abandon you again." Henry made a soft sound, shifting under the thin blanket. Tuna immediately reached over and adjusted it, tucking him in with the practiced care of a mother who had done everything alone for too long. Alex watched that small movement, and his guilt returned like a punch. This was what he had missed, these quiet moments, this real life, and she had carried it without him. Alex glanced around the room, the peeling walls, the rusted roof, the cold air sliding through broken frames. "You can't stay here," he said quietly, voice thick. "Not another night." Tuna's shoulders stiffened. "Where else would I go?" she asked, not accusing, just tired. "I can't rent a place. I barely make enough to buy milk." Alex's jaw tightened. "Then you come with me," he said. "Tonight." Tuna stared at him. Fear and pride flashed in her eyes. "Alex, I'm not asking you to depend on me like before," he said quickly, reading her expression. "I'm asking you to let me take responsibility for you, for Henry, for what I broke." Tuna looked down at Henry, then at the candle, then back at Alex. She seemed to be fighting herself, between wanting to believe and needing to protect her heart. Finally, she whispered, "What if this ends the same way?" Alex's eyes softened. He reached up and brushed a tear from her cheek with